I want to start with Ernst Fleischhacker. If a train operator approaches the High Train Consortium, what is the most important advice you can actually give? You have now experience over several years. A lot of things went wrong. Some things worked out. What would the most important advice be?
Yeah, nearly the same as we did it in 2016 when the Zillertal Bahn AG came up with the question to develop a new concept. We told them, we will do it, but in a holistic view. And we did it in this holistic view. You have seen this in the video, which is already 5 to 6 years old. And what I would say today, if you evaluate such a logistic view on the system, you have to stick on it, and you don't have to leave it. Or no part of the whole chain has to leave it. Because we have now the situation in the Zillertal that one financer tells to the railway operator he will give no money if he don't choose an Akku train. So, this is the situation. Stadler, we will hear it today, is waiting since 2019 for the call of the operator for this train. Everything is in place. I think we will hear how far they are with everything. And this was the result of a tendering process, of an open tendering process. There were worldwide 2 competitors. Stadler was one of these 2 competitors and delivered the concept, which we know today, it fits. But so that was the decision in the Zillertal Bahn, and I would say you have to stick on this holistic view on the business case, which is driven on the public motivation and also on the, let's say, on the commercial motivation. And the business case for a change, a historical change, the technology cannot be a commercial business case which is driven only by private industry, because here are also a private industry involved in this workshop. It's not possible. you have to evaluate both parts of this business case, and nobody in this chain has to leave this target. And that is my advice, what I will give to another operator which is interested on this, what we did in the last 8 years, let's say, the Zillertal Bahn, and the last 4 years with the Viva PNG research projects.
Thanks a lot. Bringing us to another question, Yusha. You mentioned that the results of this project already have been used over part of other European projects. What data was needed there, or which results actually?
So we are now contributing in a European project called Most Hydrogen, as I showed on my slides. The concept is on metal organic framework materials to store hydrogen, and there is a hydrogen storage system being developed in this project. We call it MOF storage system, and the idea is to investigate the techno-economic assessment of this MOF storage system for application in the heavy-duty railroad application. So first we focus on hydrogen trains. So based on the data that we have on the storage system already defined in the High Train project, we could provide some data regarding the design of this storage system. And then we would also focus a step further on hydrogen trucks and hydrogen buses to see if this is possible. So in this project, we are working closely with Italfer, with the Italian railway sector. We are closely collaborating on the data exchange basis, and we are also working on the infrastructure concept with them to compare, let's say, the conventional hydrogen refueling station system infrastructure with a MOF storage system. That's the idea.
Thank you, Nusha. So maybe we come to Josef Kometa. You were actually one of the first also joining this project. The HyTrain has a really long history. We already heard 8 years of project development. A lot has happened. If we would tell everything that was going on over the years, this would take, not just this day, but you already, when the project team formed, you decided to be on board. And what was your personal interest in the project? Why did you also decide to put money on it? Of course, we got some funding, but in the end, it's also a big investment for a company.
As an engineering company, Prose is doing developments. And we are always interested in new developments, in new technologies. And this was the main factor why we wanted to be involved there and be part of this project. At the very beginning of this project, or before start of the project, it was already a quite new technology. Hydrogen drivetrains had been quite new in the rail vehicle area, and something has to be developed. But in the meantime, the development went on quite fast. And now there are a few OEMs offering hydrogen-powered trains. We will hear later on a few things about. And so I think it's very important for new developments be nearly in the front of new developments always, to be part of it and to bring in all the experience we and our team has in this field.
Thanks a lot. Max, currently also some research is being finalized and concluded. What is it actually? What's going on at HyCenter?
Well, in regard to hydrogen trains, for example, it's a bit complicated. So for sure, as I mentioned before, it's dependent on the boundary conditions. But we are not limited on trains within the hydrogen center. So we do a lot of research with regard to electrolysis, to infrastructure, so the distribution, for example, of hydrogen, and of course the application in different of vehicles, like mining vehicles, for example, trucks. So there's a lot of work we can do.
Thanks a lot. There has also been a specific question to your presentation, which says, hello, is there already a BEMU, so a battery electric multiple unit with 1000 kilowatt hours of battery pack on the market, or is it only a hypothetical case for calculations?
It's only a theoretical application we just used for our comparison. So as far as I know, there is no battery electric train with that battery capacity on the market, especially for narrow gauge systems or railway. There is no battery electric train available on the market.
That's always a not so dangerous dangerous to say something, since we have Stadler here who are specialized on tailor-made. So I guess if we would tell them we need one, it may be even available, but maybe we can conclude on that later. Josef Kometa, regarding battery sizes, do you have what's the current stage with the big manufacturers? Do you already have a feeling for that? Or ranges, if we say ranges?
I think, as you said already before, it depends on several factors. There is a possibility for large battery packs, of course. Then it's the question: is it necessary for the use case running there? I'm sure maybe Stadler can answer this. They are able to deliver nearly each solution what's required. But does it make sense? Does it make sense for a short distance to have enormous large battery pack, which has to be accelerated and decelerated on each stop? So it has to be found really for each application a best solution with size of batteries on the one hand, and the other infrastructure on the other hand.
Thanks again.
May I follow up the question?
Yeah, please, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Weber, for the really great presentation. I really enjoyed that. And it was also on the 1 megawatt hour battery storage. Did you estimate the actual weight of the vehicle? And that was suitable for the axle loads on?
Partly. So we have considered a 4-part train with I think it was in 2 parts. We put the batteries in, so it more or less is suitable to put it in when we are limited to about 20 tons per X. Yeah. So when I remember it correctly, it was up to 30 tons.
Axle?
No, the batteries.
Okay.
For LTO technology.
Okay, I think that qualifies in the end for has to be clarified with the OEM, with the manufacturer of a train, if it's feasible. Because what I learned in this project is that especially this narrow gauge, it's extremely complex and it makes a lot of problems, and you need some partner that really knows what he's doing. Actually, that was also a big thing already when making this first tender. We also had some other, or for this commercial project there was not only Stadler giving in a bidding, but also others. But it was clear that Stadler is the only one who will be capable to do it. So for this narrow gauge, what I learned, this is really a big issue because there are a lot of details where not a lot of manufacturers have know-how how to do that. So in the end I would say our study is more on a general view. As already said, if the 1000 kilowatt battery would be available, okay, is it generally feasible? But if one goes into details, maybe it looks differently. I want to come also to another question, because it was stressed now quite often that this Zillertalbahn and even was a business case. In which way was it a business case, and how can that be understood? Was it the cheapest option, or I want to pose this question to Ernst Fleischacker?
Okay, a business case in a holistic view cannot be, let's say, a purchase comparison only of purchase. Only use purchase parameters. Yeah, a business case must be driven also with public parameters, and so this business case, a holistic business case, contains, let's say, an economic point of view and also a public point of view, and these both cases together give a business case for a hydrogen train, or let's say for a new concept for such a narrow gauge railway. Yeah, because what I learned now here, this electrical concept has to be developed from new, and you have seen in our video that was a concept for Zillertalbahn 2020 plus energy autonomous. Yeah, autonomous means autonomous for this company with hydrogen. And now we have an electric or battery solution, or the operator has to have, let's say this. And what does it mean? Yeah, he has to get his power from the international power plug, let's say. That means power on demand pure, and that's not autonomous. That's extremely dependent. Yeah. And what we developed there was an independent system, where they have their own hydrogen, own green hydrogen, and with the backer of the green hydrogen economy in Central Europe. So this is different. And if you look at the time frame, we could have our train every day, I can say. Since 2022, we are operating with a electrolyzer. We're producing here in Tyrol green hydrogen. We have a complete hydrogen logistic. You can put your train tomorrow on the Zillertal Railway and change the diesel train sets. And with the new concept, don't know how long they have to wait when it is developed. So there I'm surprised now about your statement, Mr. Weber, and yours. Let's say I'm negatively now in the emotional point of view after 8 years the project development, and after this whole thing what we made with the research project. Yeah. So I will stop now, because it's not on me to criticize the decision of one of the financial givers, but yeah, I will do the best to support this. But this project is now a decarbonization project and not an energy autonomous project, in the sense of Tyrol 2050 to be energy autonomous to the year 2050. That I have to state after this round here now, officially.
Okay. Thank you for this. I guess we cannot go into much more detail regarding the commercial project, which is quite complex in itself, and which had some dynamics. I think Newsha Shagibinia, she summarized quite well when she said, okay, it's now not there, and this will have some consequences that are unforeseen, what this means, but of course the future will show. One question to when you asked came in regarding when hydrogen trains, the efficiency is so low and they need much more energy, how could that ever be a business case? Maybe that's a question I will answer myself because that's something I spend quite a lot of time. And in our, or especially in the beginning of Hy-Train, we researched it quite a lot. Where does the resource come from? And what are the energy prices? And there, of course, one must state there is the price for energy, and there is also the price for grid fees. And especially when one uses hydrogen, we develop different business case scenarios. It is feasible to integrate hydrogen production into a power plant. So you have something like a direct line and you don't pay any grid fees. And this was really interesting that when we started, we saw that, of course, we need more electricity, so the price of energy is higher, but we save grid fees, and the saving of grid fees compensates the loss of energy or the more use of energy. So from the capital or from the operational costs of energy, there was no big difference between the use of energy from the grid or the use of energy for the production of hydrogen. That was quite an interesting case for myself back then. Of course, now in the meanwhile, this changed a lot because of the energy prices that developed as they developed. But which maybe brings me to one last question regarding the development of power prices or electricity prices in general. Is there anything one can say that helps us for future estimations? I think this is something I can also ask to Ernst. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It's easy. If you are on the plugin of the International Electricity Market, you can read it in the last few years. There was Corona. What was with the electricity price? It was cheap than it was never before, because the demand on electricity and on energy in general and electricity went back. So 1 year later, Ukraine crisis came up, energy crisis came up, the electricity price was high as it had never been before. So I guess the decision for the Zillertal plant was made on these prices, yeah? Because these prices say that the price for energy for producing hydrogen is also high, yeah? But now, 1 year later or 2 years later, the price for electricity is cheap again. So we produce hydrogen, green hydrogen, in the Enprise facility with, let's say, extremely cheap power. With an extremely cheap power price. That's the situation now. So, and if you make decision, a long-term decision, as the decision which was made here for the Zillertal plant, yeah, you have to take in account. You cannot make a moment analysis. Yeah, you have to make, let's say, a benefit analysis, how Mr. Weber has shown it. But it's also not, as you heard from him, a holistic view on the whole system. So it's only a benefit analysis with some boundaries. Yeah, as he mentioned. So I wrote it down when he presented this. So, and long-term decisions had to be made, and I repeat myself, with a strategic partnership which has a target, a clear target, and which have to stick long-term on this strategic target, and no part of the chain has to leave this process. Yeah? Otherwise, you will start from new, as we learned today, to have to do it in a Zillertal plant train. So I heard the train will be opened in 2030 and not 2020. So that means 10 years, 900,000 liter diesels, and let's say 2 million CO2. And what this means for the calculation and the business case, don't know. Who has calculated this? Don't know. So, is this enough?
I think that's good enough. Do we have some more questions from the audience here or the other speakers? Okay, then I suggest to have a short break until 1500, and we will then meet again here and start with session 2 and all the speakers. So we have 4 presentations there. Then in part 2, covering the whole value chain regarding trains. I think this will be quite interesting, because then it's not about research but really about products, tests, and what has been really done and what's on the rails in Europe and going on worldwide.